This webinar is called Water Talk, Get to Know Your New Watering Schedule. And just to provide a little background of the Upper Trinity Regional Water District, we were created in 1989 as a wholesale water treatment and wastewater service provider. Currently, we serve 29 communities in Denton and Collin counties. And so you can see this is our service area that's shaded in green. And then the two triangles are our two water treatment plants, and the four red stars are our four water reclamation plants, which treat wastewater from a large portion of our service area, but not as many as who get treated water from us. So currently, we serve just over 391,000 people with drinking water in these communities that you see listed here. And so we see that number growing anywhere from 10 to 30,000 people a year that we're adding to our service area, the communities that we serve. So we don't serve the city of Denton, and we don't serve most of the city of Louisville, but pretty much everything in those boxes that we do serve. Real quick, just here's a look at our water treatment plant, the Taylor plant in Louisville. You can see the lake behind it. So this is a 70 million gallon per day facility, and has won numerous awards, including best tasting water in Texas, numerous times. And this is our Harpool water treatment plant. This is up in Providence Village, and currently serves or can treat up to 30 million gallons of water per day, and we're looking to expand that up to 60. And with the Taylor plant, we're also designing expansion from 70 to 100 million. 70 to 85 million gallons per day. And so, and obviously this Harpool plant looks a bit different. It's all contained within that larger building in the back. And this is a membrane filtration plant. So we can do water treatment on a smaller site. It's also won outstanding large membrane plant and best tasting membrane water back in 2019. So here to look at our current water sources. So for our Taylor plant, we mainly pull water out of Louisville Lake. For that is where our intake structure is, but we can also get raw water from Ray Roberts Lake as it flows down the Elm Fork of the Trinity. And then for our Harpool plant, the main source of water for that comes from Chapman Lake, which is 80 miles east near the city of Commerce. But you also see that we're just north of there is Lake Ralph Hall that's currently being built. We hope to be able to start delivering water from that by the end of 2026. And so that's in southeastern Fannin County on the North Sulphur River near the city of Ladonia. So I've already talked about, how many people we serve. We know that North Texas in general, between 2010 and 2020, we added 1 million people. And in this decade, 2020 and 2030, we're expected to add another 1 million. And it's just going to keep continuing like that. And so it's vital, since these people do not bring water with them, that we plan for their water needs. And so that's something that Upper Trinity, as well as other water providers and suppliers in the region and across the state, do as part of the state water planning effort that looks 50 years into the future to forecast water supply needs for our growing population. Because we know that Texas, and this is a great quote that never have been able to find who first said it, but it's just great. That Texas is in a continual state of drought, broken by the occasional flood. So we know that here in Texas we have very extreme weather patterns. We go from drought to flood and back to drought, sometimes very quickly. And so it's important for us to be able to adapt to those weather patterns appropriately. So water conservation, why does it matter? It helps us reduce our seasonal and peak demands, and I'll talk about that more in the next slide. Helps increase our community sustainability. So by practicing our good water saving habits, we can keep our costs as low as possible and um, keep them lower in the future, as opposed to not having conservation efforts when we would have to um, have more and bigger infrastructure and new water supplies that maybe we don't need if we practice those good water saving habits, because it's having not having to go out and do these new water projects allows us to better utilize the water that we have now, along with the water infrastructure, which, like I said before, is going to keep costs lower. So this is a chart showing our daily water use that's coming from both of our water treatment plants. And so you can see on the left side, that's the scale is millions of gallons. So, and then the gray shaded bars are rolling 5-year average for water use. And the red is last year's water use. And the blue line is the current year's water usage. And so you see that in the winter months, we hover somewhere around 30 million gallons used per day. And that's been pretty consistent. One thing I do want to point out, I don't know if you can see my cursor on the blue line here in about mid-January, we had this big spike to about 42 million gallons per day. That was when we had an Arctic cold front move through, the big one that we had this year that put us in the single digits in temperatures. And so lots of folks dripping faucets, hopefully only dripping and not having a constant stream of water running out of their faucets. But you can see the cumulative effect and what that had on water usage. And then you can also see this, some of these spikes at the end of February. If you can remember, we had some warm weather, kind of like we're having today. And so people assumed, because it's probably assumed wrongly, that because it's getting warmer, we need to start watering a lot. And so, but since then, you can see that water usage has been pretty low, definitely lower than last year's, thanks to all the rainfall. And so hopefully everyone's had their sprinklers off. I know I haven't turned mine on yet this year, except to just do some quick checks and things like that. But it's 90 something degrees today, so we know the warm weather's coming, and you can see overall the characteristic water usage is for water usage to start going up in April. And so to where last year we got up over 80 million gallons of water per day used per day. And so our total system capacity is 100 million gallons per day. And so since we got above 80, that's what has triggered our water restrictions starting 2 years ago to help keep water usage down. And so just wanted to bring this up because this is a big part of why we have, in this last year, updated our water conservation plan to make the 2-day per week watering schedule a permanent and mandatory feature of our water conservation plan. Because not only to protect our water infrastructure, particularly the pumps that have to push all this water out, which requires a lot of energy, a lot of effort, but also the chemicals and the treatment capacity of the plants themselves. And so these are all things we need to take into consideration. And then seeing research like what Dr. Boeri and others have done, showing that 2 days per week is sufficient for our yards, led us to that. Plus, many other communities around the state have that same measure in place. So some of the big water saving actions that we promote are to limit outdoor watering, to keep your system, your sprinklers working properly by maintaining them, fixing broken heads, things like that, upgrading to either the multi-stream nozzles or smart controllers, things like that, and then incorporating native and adaptive plants into our yards. Because it's important to realize how much sprinklers use. You saw that big jump from wintertime usage to summertime usage, and the lion's share of that can be attributed to outdoor irrigation. Yes, swimming pools do have an effect as well, but nothing like what our sprinklers can put out. Because you can see most of them do anywhere from 3 to 9 gallons per minute, and that's per head. And so you can do the math of how many heads you have and how long you're running each zone. So it would easy to do at least 1,000 gallons in one watering. So we've really been pushing the 2-day per week watering schedule for the last couple of years through our Water Less Y'all campaign. And this year we added a pledge campaign to that as well. And I'll add this link in the chat here in a minute. But with this pledge campaign, we've had, I checked this morning, we're actually up to 154 fellow North Texans that have pledged to only water 2 days per week. And so, and here in a minute, Dr. Boeri is going to tell you why that's good and ways to water better on your 2 days to maintain that healthy yard. And if you do pledge, you can get some free goodies. We'll mail you this, we call a swag bag with a note card with links to our Water Less Y'all page, as well as the Water My Yard online water calculator tool, rain gauge, a sticker, a magnet that you can write on, which 2 days are yours, because each community is going to be different. So a lot of our customers, the cities and utilities that actually serve you, that you get your water bill from, they will have designated watering days that you can follow. And so you can write that on this magnet, as well as a toilet leak detector tablet, just for some good indoor usage. So, and this is that magnet zoomed in a bit, but yeah, so it would definitely be good. And just to clarify, some of your cities, utilities may not have this up just yet because everyone's adopting their updated water conservation plans. We're on a 5-year cycle with the state, and so this was the year to update those. And so we have a few in hand, but there are others we're still waiting on. So, but all that to say, 2 days is plenty to keep your plants healthy and resilient. But I bet there's a lot of you who don't believe me. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Pablo Agustin Boeri, who is an assistant professor and extension turfgrass specialist at Texas A&M. He's located at the Dallas AgriLife Center on Coit Road near the George Bush toll road. He earned his bachelor's in agronomy in Argentina, which is where he was native to. He was born and raised in Argentina. After working in the turfgrass industry for a few years, Dr. Boeri went to the University of Florida to pursue a master's and PhD in turfgrass science. At Texas A&M, Dr. Boeri actively works with the turfgrass industry to solve issues related to water use, turfgrass selection, and weed and pest management. His mission entails promoting environmentally sustainable turfgrass management. And with that, I will let him
thank you,
do his
Leif,
presentation.
for the introduction. Hi guys, thank you for inviting me today. What we are going to talk about today is following good management practices on turfgrass for water conservation. And the first topic we are going to address is selecting the right turf. So this is a widely used concept that sometimes is called right plant, right place. So the basic idea behind it is select a plant that is going to be adapted to your landscape. For example, if you live in a tropical area, it will be pretty easy to grow an orchid. But if you try to grow an orchid in an arid area, like West Texas, that plant is going to struggle. And the same applies to turf. So if we try to select a turfgrass cultivar that is not adapted to our landscape, for example, if we have too much shade and we try to use Bermuda grass, that wouldn't work. If we try to do that, we are going to use a lot of inputs more than needed, and we are going to need to put a lot of effort to keep that grass alive. So with that introduction, we are going to start with the first grass, which is Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is native from Africa and Asia. There is two common species. We have Cynodactylon, which is the common Bermuda grass that grows now naturally everywhere. And this is the grass that you will get from seed. If you're trying to buy seed, this is the Bermuda grass that you're going to get. And then we have the African Bermuda grass. This one is not widely used as a single species, but is used by turfgrass breeders to cross it with a common Bermuda grass. And it produces the Bermuda grass that are known as hybrids. These ones are generally higher quality turf grasses, and they are used in golf courses and sport fields. Bermuda grass is the most widely used warm season species out there, and also is the toughest out there. And it's used, as I mentioned, everywhere in golf courses, sport fields, home lawns, and even low input areas. So this is for ID purposes how Bermuda grass look like. This is useful to identify if you have Bermuda grass, buffalo grass, or zoysia grass. Most of the warm season turf grasses have here at the base of the leaf, as you can see on the left. They have a hair-like structures that are called ligules here at the base, and at the tip of the base you have a kind of also this changes depending if you have cool season or warm season, but in warm season you have these hairy look-like structures. It doesn't matter about the name, but it could be used for ID purposes. You can see like a land picture here, and this picture in the center is going to be how it looks like with a naked eye. And then a key feature to identify between Bermuda grass, buffalo grass, and zoysia grass is that Bermuda grass have a folded, it's called vernation. This is the way the leaves fold. So if you try to roll it with your finger, Bermuda grass is going to put some type of resistance, and this is the shape the leaf is going to take. This changes in zoysia grass and buffalo grass, which have a rolled vernation, and I'm going to show some pictures when I talk about that species. Bermuda grass have both stolons, which are these above ground stems, or sometimes they're called runners. These ones, they shouldn't have chlorophyll, so they are either green or they can turn purple or reddish if they're growing in, trying to grow outside of the turf and they are exposed to sunlight. And Bermuda grass also have rhizomes, which are these below ground stems that they lack chlorophyll. That's why they are white or kind of brownish. And because Bermuda grass have these two types of structures, that's what it gives this grass all the low input characteristics and resistant to traffic and drought. Some of the strengths of Bermuda grass, like I mentioned before, is drought and heat tolerant. It has a deep-rooted potential. It established pretty fast and also have some traffic tolerance. It performs pretty well with salinity, so it will grow close to coastal areas, or if you irrigate it with bad water quality. And in general, it has a low disease potential. This low disease potential could change if you are putting a lot of inputs into it, such as a Bermuda grass grown in a potting green. The big weakness of Bermuda grass is the shade. So Bermuda grass doesn't like shade at all. If you have shade from trees or buildings, that's where Bermuda grass will fade, and it will be the limitation here. And the frequent mowing requirement, that will be if you are putting a lot of inputs into it. If you're growing Bermuda grass and you irrigate it more than you needed, and you put more fertilizer than you needed, Bermuda grass will take all of that and start growing and growing, and it will be really hard to keep up with it. That's why people don't use Bermuda grass in South Florida, because they can't keep the mowing, or they will need to mow 2 to 3 times per week to keep a Bermuda grass lawn beautiful. This is not the case here, but if in the middle of summer we are irrigating Bermuda grass a lot and putting a lot of nitrogen-based fertilizers, it will also be hard to maintain. And you will notice that on the turfgrass quality. I mentioned that we have different types of Bermuda grasses that can be split in the seeded, which are the common Bermuda grasses, and the hybrids. And I wanted to show what are the key differences between those here. So in this table, you have some of these hybrids. We have Tiftop, which is the most drought-tolerant Bermuda grass out there in the market right now. Then we have Tifway, which is one of the oldest Bermuda grasses in the market out there, also a hybrid. And then we have Tahoma 41, which is a newer Bermuda grass released by Oklahoma State, which is a cold-tolerant Bermuda grass. Then we have Celebration, which is a common Bermuda grass that is only sold as vegetative, so you can only buy sod from this grass. But this one is generally used for sport fields because it's a really aggressive grass and it recuperates from traffic pretty well. And then we have all the seeds. We have Monaco, Rivera, and Yukon. These are all seed and common Bermuda grasses. And if you compare, for example, here in this third column, you have the ground cover under traffic conditions, and you can see that some of these improved lines, Tiftop, Tahoma, and Celebration, they basically compare to Tifway, which is the oldest Bermuda grass, and Monaco, which is one of the top performing seeded Bermuda grasses. But some of the seeds don't compare to that. Like Yukon has a really poor traffic tolerance compared to these improved lines. If we go to the drought part, this is showing the turf quality. So the way this works is a 1 will be a grass with a really poor drought or characteristics, and 9 will be a grass that performs really well under that. So you can see here that Tiftop, the first one, highlights from all the other ones. And it is a grass, like I said before, with the highest drought tolerance in the market right now. And if we go to the other Bermuda grasses like Tahoma, Celebration, it basically compares to Monaco. And these other seed Bermuda grasses, they don't compare that well. They have a lower drought tolerance. And for the recovery, this is after a drought, we either irrigate these grasses again or rainfall comes back. And you can see that some of these improved Bermuda grasses perform better, like Tahoma and Celebration. And again, Tiftop is at the top. The basic message I wanted to show here is that Tiftop is one of the grass with the highest drought tolerance in the market right now. So if you try to save water, this will be your choice. And if you want to go with a lower budget grass that will be seeded, I will recommend you to go with Monaco and not with a common Bermuda grass that you can buy everywhere. If you select some of these improved lines, it will have a better drought tolerance and better response to traffic. This is a picture, some pictures showing the response of Tiftoff. This is basically the visual representation what I said before. And you can see that Tiftoff stay greener under drought, and you can see that the quality of celebration, we have Tifway here, and latitude is another improved line, and you can see that the quality of these grasses start to decline, and Tiftoff stay pretty green during drought conditions. The next grass is San Agustin grass. So San Agustin grass is native from South America and to many states of the US. You usually find it in close to coastal areas, and one of the biggest limitations of San Agustin grass is the winter kill. That's why sometimes we struggle to grow it on this region. San Agustin grass has only stolons, and it has a pretty good root system. So if we are growing it in a native soil, it will have a decent drought tolerance. And again, it has a good salt tolerance. That's why it's also growing in coastal areas. This is how the leaf of San Agustin grass look like. You can see again these hairs growing at the base of the leaf. This is pretty characteristic on warm season grasses. San Agustin grass also have a folded vernation. If you try to roll the leaf, it's going to offer some resistance there. It has a round leaf tip, so this is a key characteristic of San Agustin grass, and also have this constricted color at the base. So if you go to the base of the leaf, you can see that kind of the leaf is strangled here. This is how the stolons of San Agustin grass look like. They're pretty characteristics, and they're a key for identification. Here you can see a schematic of the different parts of the stolons. You can see the internodes that connects the two growing points that are called nodes. This is where the nodes are where the new stems and leaf grow, and the internode length and width can be helpful to identify between different San Agustin grass cultivars. Some of the strengths of San Agustin grass: this grass is more shade tolerant than Bermuda grass. It can establish fast, and it has a deep rooting potential. Again, you will need to grow this grass under native soils to get this feature. And some of the weaknesses is the cold tolerance, the traffic tolerance, and generally San Agustin grass have disease issues and problems with pests like chinch bugs. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of San Agustin grass. There have been a lot of efforts to develop improved varieties. We have the example of Floratam, which was a conjunct release between Texas A&M and the University of Florida, which released this grass in 1973. Then we have Riley that was released in 1983 by North Carolina State. Then we have Palmetto that was released in 1994 by Salt Solutions. And then we have the newer ones like Camstar that was released by Texas A&M in 2016. And the newest San Agustin grass there in the market is Cobalt, which is, again, like similar to Tiftoff, the grass with the highest drought tolerance, the San Agustin grass with the highest drought tolerance in the market right now. Some of the characteristics of Cobalt, like I said, it uses less water than Riley and Palmetto, and also have fewer disease issues than these two grasses. It has a better shade and cold tolerance than Floratam. And one of the features of Cobalt is that it has a wider leaf blade and internodes. It's like a bigger grass, and you can see a picture how it looks like here. And this is just a visual how we perform under different water requirements. This was a study that conducted in Citra, Florida, which has sandy soils. So under drought conditions, these grasses get crispy really fast. And you can see on the top, Floratam, and on the bottom cobalt under different irrigation schedules. So the first one was a sensor-based irrigation. This will be a smart controller. Then we have a two times per week irrigation. You can see that the grasses, both grasses look great under this. Then we have a 1 time per week schedule, and you can see that the water, the quality of Floratam start declining, and cobalt is still looking pretty good. And if we go to more extreme, where it's like 2 times per month, you can see that Floratam and 1 time per month, Floratam really struggle here. But cobalt was able to stay a little greener, at least maintaining green cover here. And you can see that the quality start declining, but the grass is still alive, even without a supplementary irrigation here. This again will change depending on the environmental conditions, the type of soils that you have, if you have other stressors like shade. But in general, if you stay in a 2 times per week schedule, San Agustin grass, even Floratam, will look great. The other grass is zoysia grass. So this is native from Asia and the Pacific Rim. Some of the strengths of zoysia grass is the shade tolerance. It has a decent drought tolerance by wilt, so the leaves will turn brownish earlier than other grasses. They will recover from that, but you will see the symptoms earlier. And one of the key features is the cold tolerance. You can grow zoysia grass in all the regions from Texas and go even to northern states. And it has a low fertilization requirement, and you want to stay in these low input characteristics, because if not, zoysia grass have a big weakness, which is the touch. So if you put a lot of water and fertilizers in zoysia grass, the canopy will get puffy, and this will retain a lot of moisture, and that will create a perfect environment for diseases. And I want to show a picture how it's going to look like in the next slides. So it's really important in zoysia grass that you follow proper mowing recommendations. We have a general recommendation that is called the 1/3 rule, which implies that we shouldn't remove more than 1/3 of the leaf every time we mow. And this will equivalent to 1 per week during the summer. And in zoysia grass, it's really important that we keep our mower, the blades of our mower sharp. This is similar to Bermuda grass. Zoysia grass have both the stolons that you can see here on the bottom and the rhizomes that you can see here on the right. And this is what I was saying. Again, you have the fringe of hair at the base of the leaf, but this is a key feature to identify zoysia grass from Bermuda grass. If you try to roll the Bermuda grass in your fingers, you will see that it goes pretty smoothly, and that's because it has this rolled vernation. And you will notice that if zoysia grass go into drought stress, because the leaf will look like needles, and that's because of the rolled characteristics. And you will see it also in the winter when the zoysia grass go dormant. This is how a yard with touch issues will look like. If you see your zoysia grass is getting puffy like this and reaches this limit, general recommendations is to verticut. These are some like vertical blades that you put into the canopy and help to break down all this thick canopy and help water to pass through it and reduce the humidity in there that could cause some disease issues. There is different type of zoysia grasses. So we have the coarse and fine texture zoysia grasses. The ones from the species Japonica, so Zoysia japonica, you can see some pictures here, are the coarse texture ones. And here is where Meyer and Palisade fall. Meyer is the standard for cold tolerance, so generally is used in northern states, or it will perform pretty well in this region. And then we have Palisades, which is a standard for drought tolerance. Then in the fine texture ones, which will be here in the middle, we have the Zoysia matrellus, and the standard for this will be diamond. These ones are generally harder to maintain, but they have a pretty good shade tolerance. And then we have the hybrids. Here we have like the newer Zoysia grass innovation, which combine like a medium leaf texture, it kind of medium characteristic of these two. And then we have the really fine texture Zoysia grasses, and these ones are using in potting greens. And here we have, for example, laser Zoysia grass that was released by Texas A&M, and is used in the PGA at Frisco. Some of the characteristics. So for residential lawns, the Zoysia japonicas are preferred. Again, these are the ones with the coarse texture leaves. These ones are less dense and less prone to touch. They have a relatively good shade tolerance, not the same like in general like the matrellas, but this will vary among cultivars. They're more drought tolerant than the matrellas, therefore they will use less water, and they will establish faster as well. The matrellas grow really slow, and they have a decent soil tolerance. So for the matrellas, which are the fine texture ones, these are higher maintenance grasses. They're generally used in golf courses for fairways or even for putting greens. So if you have one of those, it will simply harder to maintain. It will require more mowing. You will have to be more careful how to manage the grass. It has a really good shade tolerance. It's less drought tolerant than the japonicas, and it's also less winter hardy than the japonicas, but in southern states will have a better winter color retention. And this look contradictory, but changing the grasses that retain color during the winter, basically they stay active. So if we have a really cold front, it will damage the grass. And the grasses that are more cold tolerant, they generally go dormant earlier, so they are protected to those cold fronts. So that's the way it works. And this grass is the one with the slowest establishment, so they take a long time to recover from damage. So that's another reason you generally don't use it in residential lawns. Then we have the truly low input grass, which will be buffalo grass. This, of course, is native to the US. And some of the key features of this grass is the drought tolerance. It has a low disease potential, and also it can be grown in northern states and all the way up to the panhandle. The key feature for this grass is that you need to maintain it as a low input grass. So mow it really low, really fewer times. So basically no mowing or just mowing once a month or something like that. I use either no fertilizers or just a few fertilizers. This grass doesn't lack wet areas, so that's why it doesn't, if you see here in the map, where you can see the areas where buffalo grass grows well, it will do pretty well in West Texas and in the north, but it will struggle a little bit in East and South Texas because it doesn't like too much rainfall. It doesn't tolerate shade and salinity. And if you try to establish by seed, you will have some issues with weeds, and also doesn't have a traffic tolerance. So this will be a grass for a low input area where you basically don't mess with it. This is just to show the drought tolerance of buffalo grass that kind of outperformed everything. This was a study that we have under a rainout shelter in Florida. That's why we were able to grow buffalo grass. If we were to put this buffalo grass outside the rainout shelter, it will not perform well in Florida. But you can see this after a 2-year drought period under this drought shelter. You can see that all the other grasses that we have here kind of die after these periods, and buffalo grass was the only one alive. And of course, weeds, which which are always there even during drought conditions. So now we are going to change gears and talk about more management of these turf grasses. Once you select one, you need to go to the proper turf management. A healthy turf will do really well under drought, but if this turf is struggling because it's under shade or it's not mowing properly, it will struggle under drought conditions. So the first one is the irrigation requirements. So there is a general recommendation that for North Texas that if you water 1 to 2 times per week with a total of 0.5 to 1 inches, you should cover the water requirements for the warm season turf grasses in the summer. So these charts that you're seeing here is showing 2 columns. You can see first the rainfall in inches, and the second bar is the water requirements of the grasses, also in inches. And you can see that from January to May, the rainfall kind of exceeds the water requirements of the grass. So that's why you turn off your irrigations during the winter. Then in June, July, August, and September, this is the period where the water requirements on the grass start exceeding the annual rainfall, and this is where you need to supplement with irrigation. There's only 4 months. This is an average, so it could change depending on the period of time. But then when we go into October, November, December, generally we don't need to irrigate. So there is basically 4 key months that we need to worry about irrigating our turf grass. This is a general recommendations, but we have the Water My Yard program. You probably are familiar with it. But this program will tell you exactly how much water you need to put during the season. So if you Google it, you can download the app as well. You hit get started here and you put your zip code or the area where you are. It's going to tell you how much water you need to put. So for example, I did this one in January. This is when the rainfall exceeds the water requirements of the grass. So we need to put water there. Then if we think about the 2 times per week schedule, the reasoning before it is to water deep and infrequent. So the grass responds to this. So this picture here is showing a daily irrigation schedule versus a 2 times per week schedule. And you can see that during the daily irrigation schedule, we are going to create this shallow root system, basically because we are providing all the water that the grass needs up there. So if we go into a drought, we need to reduce our irrigation. This grass is basically going to struggle a lot because it has less access to water. But if we are irrigating with a 2 times per week schedule, we are going to push the water down into the profile, and that's going to translate in a deep and expanded root system. So the grass with these characteristics, this not only applies to grass, it applies to all plants. This grass under this characteristic, we have this deep root system, so it will be able to extract water from deep in the soil, and also we have a bigger area where to extract water. So basically, this daily irrigation will create a needy grass, and this 2 times per week irrigation system will create a tough grass. So there's some caveats to that. So sometimes in the summer, when we see how much water we need to put in each cycle, this can exceed the water infiltration capacity of the soil. So what we do to that is we create a cycle and soak This will allow the water to be pushed down into the profile. And the way we do that, let's say that we get our water recommendations and we need to water 30 minutes. So we will split this in 3 10-minute cycles with a 10-minute or 15-minute break in between those. And that will avoid this type of a scenario and will allow the water to go down into the profile. So it's a really important, one of the most important management practices that we can implement. This picture is showing a salsa grass that was grown into a compacted soil. This compacted soil was mimicking a new development where construction companies go, they compact the soil, they put the clay to build the foundation of the house, and then they lay out a 2-inch or, if you're lucky, a 4-inch layer of topsoil, and that's what you're going to get. So the grass will not be able to grow in this compacted soil, and as you can see in this salsa grass, there was almost any root growing at the bottom. Then on the right, you can see the native soil here. So in the native soil, you can see that all the roots of the grass were reaching the bottom of these plots or these pots. And this is where we can really use these deep rooting potentials I was talking about in the warm season grasses. And this in the center will be an ideal scenario. This will be USGA potting green situations where you mix 80% peat moss and 20% sand. So this is a soil with a lot of air into it, and you can see a really healthy root system. So this will represent what you could achieve really if you modify completely the soil. But if you start applying amendments like compost or you aerify, and I'm going to show you pictures in the next slides, you can get a better or more healthy root system. This is a study that was conducted in San Antonio about 20 years ago that was showing basically what I showed before. You can see all these brown patches. This was the grasses, and we have many turfgrass species and cultivars here. And these brown patches were the ones growing in this soil mimicking a new construction with this 4-inch root system. And the other ones were grown in a native soil. As you can see, here is the data, but when we went into this 60-day drought, basically all the grasses growing in this new construction died, and they didn't recover from it. And the grasses growing in these native soils, they went down and basically went dormant during the summer, and then they recover when the irrigation or precipitation resumed. One strategy that we can use to improve our existing soils is use aerification. But for that method to be effective in our heavier soils, we need to follow first using these hollow tines that you can see here in the picture. We want to take a plug of soil and create this open space here. And then we fill out this space with either compost or sand. Generally, what we recommend is compost, and that will prevent that hole to fill down. If we just use a solid tine or we use these hollow tines in a clay, this hole will close again and will disappear after a few months. Then Blake mentioned something about this. These are the irrigation audits. So the basic idea, this is the full schematics and how it will work in a perfect environment with equipment. It's actually pretty easy to do. This is using these fancy cups, but you can go there into your lawn. You put whatever kind of cup you want. Then you take it to a graduate cylinder or a measuring cup, and you measure how many inches per minute you are applying. So this is just an example. We got all these values, and you can see there is differences between them. We do an average over those, and we divide it by the running time. And that, if we multiply it by 60, they will give you the inches per hour. Or if we don't multiply it by 60, it will give you the inches per minute. There's some cities that provide this service, or even companies, irrigation companies that provide this service. So, but it's pretty easy. If you just do an average and divide it by running time, it will give you how many inches of water you need to apply per minute. This is also used to identify irrigation uniformity, and there is also a calculation for that, but you don't necessarily have to use this calculation. This is used basically to identify if there's any issues with the irrigation system, and if you see a dry spot in your turf, you can put a catch can there and a catch can in a healthy area. And if the healthy area is catching water and the dead area or brown area is not catching water, you will know that it's a problem with the irrigation system, and you can see a way to fix it. This is a problem where they installed these bushes in a new lawn, and after a few years, these bushes got big, and they were blocking the irrigation system, and they were creating these dry spots here. So these are some of the difference between water requirement difference between turf grasses. In general, the warm season turf grasses require less water than the cool season turf grasses, and you can see some of the difference here. This is a relative ranking from very low, moderate, high, and very high water use. And what you're seeing here is the ET. This is a evapotranspiration of the grasses. Basically, it's the water use in inches of water per day, and you can see that buffalo grass has the lowest there, like I mentioned before in the pictures. Then we have Bermuda grass and zoysia grasses, which classify in the low water requirements. San Agustin grass would be a moderate water requirement, and when we go to the ryegrasses, which are the cool season grasses, and the annual bluegrass, the ryegrass, which is using in overseeing, these ones have high and very high water requirements. So basically, warm season use less water than cool season. There is also differences between species of warm season. This is the data showing that, but basically, if we focus here at the end, this was the study from San Antonio was talking about, and we can see at this 55 drought that Bermuda grass and buffalo grass were still alive and retaining some turf grass cover here. And San Agustin grass and zoysia grass, they will basically go dormant. So if you have zoysia grass or San Agustin grass, the limit on the drought will be close to 20 to 40 days. But if you have buffalo grass or Bermuda grass, you can push it, and your grass will go dormant at this point on a 60-day drought, but in general, it will recover from this. If you have, again, a root system similar to a native soil. This again is just a visual representation of how that will look like. So we have Valle grass. Valle grass is another really drought-tolerant turf grass that is grown generally in the south east of Texas. Then we have Bermuda grass. You can see that these two perform really well under drought. We had centipede. This was also a warm season grass that is used in the south. And then we have here these two, San Agustin grass and zoysia grass. In general, San Agustin grass and zoysia grass have a lower drought tolerance than Bermuda grass, but these grasses will recover in general from this. These are some general recommendations for overall management. It's really important to follow the mowing recommendation for each species. Mowing has a similar effect to water deep and infrequent. So in the middle of the summer, if we increase our mowing height in the recommended range I want to show next. But if we increase the mowing height, we are going to also increase the root system. So grass in the summer, general recommendation is to increase the mowing height a little bit, and this grass is going to be more tolerant to drought. These are some of the general recommendations for mowing. In Bermuda grass and zoysia grass, we can go from 1 inch to 2 inches, sometimes 3 inches in Bermuda grass, in common Bermuda grass, but not more than that. And in San Agustin grass, we can go from 2.5 to 4 inches. And then buffalo grass, generally, we recommend a 4-inch. A 2-inch will struggle, or leave it unmowed. If we leave buffalo grass unmowed, this would be the most drought tolerant thing out there. These are some of the fertilizer recommendations. It's really important to stay on this moderate range. If we use too much fertilizer, the grass will start to thin out and will look too succulent and creating this needy grass that I was talking about. And this grass will struggle. And if we are in too low, if our grass is missing fertilizer, it will also struggle on the drought and will require more water. So we want to follow the proper recommendations for the amount of pound of nitrogen that generally goes from 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per year to 3, sometimes in Bermuda grass, but generally want to stay in this range. If we apply this amount and we stay in the recommended, our grass is going to be more tolerant in general to a drought. It's going to use less water, and also it's going to be more tolerant to diseases and or environmental stresses. And the same is going to go to shade. If we're growing grass under shade, the grass is going to become more succulent and it's going to have a weaker root system. So we need to water less and apply less fertilizers under these conditions. There is a caveat to this when we are going to the grass under trees and they are really close to the root system of the tree. The grass is going to really struggle because it's going to compete with the tree. Sometimes these areas, they are not optimal for turfgrass, and we want to put a ground cover there. And fertilizer under shade, doing too much fertilizer under shade can increase the susceptibility of the grass to diseases, drought, and or stresses. The last thing I'm going to mention is the waterman chart. I think I'm pretty over my time, but we have a waterman chart verification study where we are evaluating if our recommendations are correct or we need to adjust them, and if we can even reduce our irrigation recommendations even more. And this is kind of the data like that shows that. You can see here we have Tifway Bermuda grass, and you have the turfgrass quality I mentioned before, basically really poor quality and really good quality. And we had the different irrigation schedules. So these orange lines that we have here is the waterman chart recommendations, the one that we actually had. And this 6 value is the grass under basically acceptable quality. And you can see under the current waterman chart recommendations, in shady Bermuda grass, it stays there. This doesn't have statistics on it, but if we will analyze this data with statistics, we will see that this doesn't differ from this 6 line. And this was basically the same on San Agustin grass and zoysia grass here. And you can see a visual of that in the next slides. You can see this will be the actual recommendation from the waterman chart program, and you can see that zoysia grass stays healthy under these recommendations. Maybe you see some brownish a little bit, but essentially this is Palisade zoysia grass. It stays pretty healthy under a native soil again. If we apply more water than that, we are going to see also a decline because we are scalping the turf or having disease issues. And if we go lower than that, we can see that salsa grass will survive. It will get a little brown, but it will recover from that. So with that, thank you for your attention.